I'm from a big city in Syria that was destroyed in the war. Because of this, I could no longer attend or graduate from high school. I loved studying, it was all I knew, and education was all my father wanted for me too. But when I had to leave Syria, I was not prepared for the real world. In 2014, I left Syria with my parents, 2 brothers and sister, and we sought refuge with my uncle in Turkey. I'd now lost my dream of an education. I thought, school is over now. I am in another country. My father can no longer feed us. We have to feed ourselves now, work and grow up quicker. We moved several times in Turkey. I was determined to work and ended up sitting in a yard where unemployed people wait for jobs. No one hired me because I was smaller than the others, but I was determined and I started learning Turkish from a book. I eventually got a job there, but my employer tried to take advantage of me. It was a long time ago and nothing happened. But I was scared because he drove me into the forest and then he tried to kiss me. I thought to myself, what the fuck is this? I made it clear that I didn't want to, that I wouldn't have sex with him. And then he pulled a knife to threaten me. I was very afraid, but I also felt sorry for him in a way. I managed to take the knife from him and fought back and then got out of the car. I didn't have a mobile phone to take a picture or call the police. I finally walked many kilometers back into town. I only ever told my mother. At the time, I was also selling illegal cigarettes. One night, bad men with a motorbike lured me to an alley and beat me up. They took the money and all the cigarettes. So this was my beginning in Turkey and it affected my morale. I questioned my masculinity, why I couldn't defend myself. I was no good for work, but couldn't be in school either. When we moved to the next town, I got a job in a bakery for 10 lira a day. Very little and often worked overtime. My brother was in another city, trying to find a better life, so we might follow him there. He didn't find a job and couldn't find my aunt, so he slept on the street. He experienced very bad things there. We were safe with the bakery for a while, even if it offered no opportunity. I learned Turkish pretty quickly on my own. We found a better flat where we could all sleep in separate rooms, because before that everyone had slept in one room. It was so cramped. I found work in a carpentry workshop. I was their cheap labor. There was no apprenticeship. You make tea and coffee for your boss, and when he sees you're loyal, he says, okay, now you're ready. Then you can learn the profession. With no school anymore, I had to grab this opportunity to learn. I studied from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and I always volunteered to work overtime until midnight because I hoped my boss might see how committed I was and be nicer to me. 12 to 15 hours. I was always so tired. I asked the integration service to talk to the shop because I was entitled to more money. But I didn't have papers or a contract, so I had to forget about proper earnings. I realized my life now depended on this person, and I had no dignity begging for money. I worked there for 6 months, and then I changed my employers. Of course, I lost my last month's salary, and I couldn't call the police. After a year, my parents said, "You and your brother should go to Germany now, where human rights are respected and you'll have a better life there." I agreed out of love and respect for them, without knowing what lay ahead. We left and were on the road for 8 days. We started at a beach town in Turkey, where the mafia bring people to the borders. We made a deal and were locked in a flat. We didn't know where we were and were transported by lorry. We didn't know where we were going or whether it was a trap. We trusted our lives completely to the trafficker. There was no alternative. The next morning, we were brought to the beach. We had life jackets on. I can't swim either. I thought, okay, either I make it or it's not worth living for anyway. To be a slave forever. Freedom or nothing. Now or never. The traffickers don't use their own drivers, but he picked one of us who said he could drive. He then got the ride for free, but we soon learned our driver couldn't drive. He took the wrong route and we hadn't enough fuel. Everyone started panicking and the situation got out of control. The rubber dinghy was only suitable for 8 to 10 people at the most. There were 40 of us, so close, all breathing the same breath, mothers and children all crying. The motor stopped running. Everyone started screaming. But somehow the engine worked again, and we got to the shore. But people tried to get out too quickly, and this caused an imbalance. It was chaos. We got to land, but the path to the city was very dangerous and muddy. Still, we made it, and we looked for help. We went to Athens by ship, and from there we took a lot of trains, buses, and so on. A lot of people tried to scam us, and we were completely on our own with no adults to advise us. We were beaten by policemen and border guards. We eventually arrived in Germany, November 2015. We were exhausted and it was very cold. I just turned 18 and 10 days before, and that's why I was treated as an adult by the initial reception center. We said we were looking for asylum. They took our fingerprints, and when we were completely naked, they checked everywhere to see if we were some kind of terrorist or smugglers. We were examined very carefully, and we had to fill out a lot of documents and say if we had experienced or seen any violent actions, or whether we belonged to any groups. I felt like a felon. I was sick for a month because of the weather, and because on the way we had slept without blankets in sub-zero temperatures. After 4 weeks, I was transferred with adults to the next camp. I saw many others taking drugs and fighting. I was the youngest there. I was attacked twice. They wanted to beat me up. They didn't like that I tried to look smart or better myself, even when I interpreted for them. I felt like my brother and I were crawling in a hole with different rules to the outside world. I was desperate to be out of there and integrating. The guards were there to keep order, but they couldn't understand us at all. And the refugees saw the guards as enemies and not as people who could help them. Because of all the bureaucracy and waiting, I had to teach myself German from the internet. I changed accommodation, and after 7 months, I was able to talk about everything and not sound like a robot. I learned the language out of love, and I got a lot of support from teachers. But it would have all been easier if I was not treated as an adult in the beginning. I wish I remained with the teenagers. They had more supports and people to listen to them. I have lived like a nomad, adapting to and treating every city like a station. I don't know where the next one will be, or where I will actually spend the rest of my life. I've felt like a stateless person because I gave up on my own state and the people I knew there. I've been lucky to have my brother with me, but it's not the tenderness of my mother or the caring of my father. There are times where I've been so lonely. I tell them I'm fine. They tell me they're fine. But we lie, and I really don't know when I'll ever see them again. But in the years I've spent in the city, and with the friends I've made, it has become a second home for me. I'm really glad that I was accepted here and that I enjoy better rights. but I would like to help other refugees to experience this too. They need to have a better arrival with better communication between asylum seekers, protection seekers, Germans and the state. Also, a change is needed in the German courses. The teachers feel the students just want the certificate as proof to find an apprenticeship or to make it easier at the job center or employment office. And often it's true, they don't really want to learn German. They just want to live in their ghettos and parallel societies. We should help the refugees to want to integrate, perhaps through integration courses where they could educate and help each other. They could share their professional skills more or learn a profession. This is how I would like to help, to get them out into the real Germany, with education, for integration.